just importance of being thorough in your study and don't be discouraged by not getting called for gigs or being intimidated by other pianists that play fast or anything. Everyone has their own story to tell and it's valid.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the channel. Today we're doing an episode of Jazz Lab, and I'm so excited to have the great pianist Paul Cornish with us today. This is going to be an amazing episode. Paul is an absolutely incredible player. So right now, Paul, you are living in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for being here in New York. Really, really excited to have you.
Thanks for having me.
You play with Louis Cole, right? I think probably a lot of us are huge fans of Louis's music.
He's the best.
And I have heard you on his records, and I remember looking you up because I was like, wow, who is that? Sounds amazing. So yeah, really, really excited to have you here, man. I'm excited to dive into just different ways that you approach the piano. Maybe we can nerd out a little bit about keyboards and key beds.
Would love to, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, a lot of people on the podcast love talking about key beds, and we nerd out on my YouTube channel all the time. So yeah, Piano Hang. I love it. I also want to say a huge thanks to Casio for sponsoring today's episode. More on that later. Just to get started here, Paul, would you be down to play us something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
And so creative.
Thank you.
Really creative. I have so many questions about what you just did. I hope you're ready, man. I hope you're ready. So just to start off, I was really blown away at your left hand involvement throughout. There's so much, I think as jazz pianists, we often kind of fall into the classic way of playing solo piano, which a lot of the time is basically playing a simple voicing in the left hand and improvising with our right hand. And that goes not just for solo piano, but also for playing in the trio setting, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just kind of curious, one thing I love to do here is really dive into the nitty gritty of how you actually developed that approach. So not only who inspired you, but what did you actually do in the practice room to start developing that ability to have your left hand somewhat moving on its own while your right hand is improvising? And I might even get a little more detailed than that with the questions, but just generally speaking, what has been your kind of left hand approach to practice and involving it with your right hand?
For sure. I was joking with someone the other day. I really feel like it's the people I grew up around. Mm-hmm. Like I was fortunate enough to go to school with people like James Francis and my other great friend Sterling Overshawn, who's a great pianist out here in New York. And yeah, literally being around them, I was joking with someone that they used to bully pianists for not having a left hand. And it was like a thing. It was like, oh, if you had all right hand but no left hand, then you can't really play. And it was kind of joking, but it was also kind of just like, okay, like they were both playing some amazing stuff with their left hand, so I just have to at least, just to keep up. And also being around people like Taylor Ixty early on, like I went to Stanford Jazz Camp, and that was something that changed my life, getting to see a player like him up close. And Jason Rand is also a great mentor, and he really challenged me to think of the piano more of like an orchestra, and would literally have me do exercises where like I could not play in like the middle of the piano. So that just starts getting you thinking about other possibilities of how to orchestrate and arrange, especially within the solo piano context.
Yeah, wow, that's really interesting. So one thing you mentioned was looking at the piano more orchestrally. Mm-hmm. And I definitely felt like I noticed you doing that, and I thought it was really creative, some of the ways you actually explored different techniques in playing really what is a pretty standard song, right? So I'm kind of curious, I've seen you do a few different techniques, and even just now I saw you do a couple things. So how would you feel about just really quickly showing us a couple just very specific, again, nitty-gritty techniques that you use? I noticed one where you were kind of doing some kind of a double octave thing. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of curious if you'd be down to show us a little bit of that stuff.
Yeah.
Putting you on the spot here.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to see if I can explain it in a coherent way. I don't know. I feel like that's kind of like maybe like a variation on like. I feel like that's kind of like a Phineas or Finest newborn type of thing. Like he would kind of go into this thing in his solos where it's like these melodies like. It's kind of like water like almost, I forgot what that like, I think it's like a Liszt etude-ish thing, but like I think I was doing like a harmonic arpeggiated type of version of that. So like
cool.
So like yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're kind of practicing it diatonically there a little bit.
Yeah.
Or playing it diatonically. So if we actually broke that down, maybe you can help me out here, but just now, what were we doing? E,
yeah,
E, Lydian, so.
Yeah.
Is it like 2 notes in the left hand and then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So 2 notes in the left hand, and then we kind of do like a
I'm doing like
chordal thing.
Yeah, I'm doing like F sharp triad on top of like the E.
Oh, cool. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And then up to like G sharp major. Like
okay.
the sharp 5. Yeah.
I gotta practice it, man. Yeah. I don't want to look too dumb on it.
Me too.
That's awesome. All right, very cool. So just to kind of break it down for anyone who's listening, basically we're taking E Lydian, and we're taking this pattern, 2 notes in the left hand, and then kind of taking our right thumb and doing kind of this triadic thing. Maybe you're sometimes doing.
Yeah, I'm alternating, yeah.
Cool, alternating, yeah. Right, so thumb, 4, 2, 5. All right, cool, that's an awesome technique. And if we actually tried to practice it up the E major scale.
Mm-hmm.
Making me feel like a middle schooler here.
No, that's great.
Amazing, yeah.
And you can you can do it with any kind of shape. I don't even know how this pattern kind of got ingrained in me, but I'd like kind of put on a lot of stuff like. You can also do it like any time signature, but just the idea of like kind of alternating between like the left hand feeding the right hand, and alternating kind of the interplay between the two.
I love it. And okay, so I'm gonna keep picking your brain on the two-handed stuff. So okay. I also noticed that when you were actually doing improvised lines with your right hand, your left hand was often kind of going in counterpoint or doing something. Mm-hmm. And my very kind of quick interpretation was, okay, you have your brain splits that your right hand you can focus in on the lines and your left hand maybe counters with something that you're somewhat comfortable with, like some kind of a scale or scalar pattern. For example, you do something like, I don't know, something, or doing some kind of lick in the right hand, and then your left hand would be kind of moving down. And I kind of got this sense that, again, this is just my interpretation, so you should actually be the one to explain this, but I got this sense that your right hand was where the majority of your brain focus was, and your left hand was kind of operating with a certain degree of you already knowing, just knowing where it was going to go. Yeah. And my interpretation was maybe that's either a pattern or a scale that is related to the right hand that you kind of already know will work. Yeah. So that was just kind of my guess interpretation. I was curious if you could maybe show us a couple things and dive into that a little bit. And also just how did you practice that stuff? Was it totally natural or was it something you sat down in the practice room with?
Yeah. And again, I always got to give like credit where credit is due. I feel like that's like another one of those like Taylor-isms. And also, people like Jeff Keezer and like Brad Mildau, like that's kind of, I don't know, my version or a failed attempt at what I've heard them do. At least just, birthing the idea within, my mind. But I feel like I'll usually like stay pretty diatonic in the left hand in terms of, maybe the chord I'm playing or chromatic even if it's like, maybe you're moving through multiple chords. And then, like you said, I'll focus majority of like the line or like, I guess the changes in the left hand and the idea of the left hand is more textural or just like somewhat arbitrary contrapuntal. So something like that. So I feel like it's just good to practice. I usually just practice scales and contrary motion anyway. So just to get that like muscle memory in your hand, and then you can just always expand on it in terms of what you play in there are a lot of possibilities. You can go up and down with your right hand. So cool. Yeah, so many possibilities. But I feel like once you get used to that motion, it's cool to just experiment. Like, like you said, you're not really thinking about exactly what the left hand is doing, and that kind of frees you up to like impose whatever you want in your right hand at the same time.
That's really cool. Yeah, and you know what I love about that is you're taking what's kind of a simple thing in the practice room, to conceive, right? Like we're just taking a scale and kind of like working it, the hands moving contrary motion. But then again, it's an example of taking a simple thing from the practice room and bringing it into improvisation and being able to use it to do all this really interesting creative stuff. So
absolutely.
Very cool.
And like I said, all the people I mentioned, they all have their own crazy things that they do with it. So I would encourage people, if they're curious, just to kind of, I guess, listen to some of those pianists and kind of cue in on how their variations and how to make it your own.
Yeah, absolutely. So would you say that the people you mentioned are some of the biggest influences on you?
That's hard to say. I was just talking to another pianist about this. I feel like I go through kind of different periods of, different pianists, and like I very rarely like stick on one. But I feel like there are a few pianists that like kind of just open your mind in a lot of ways. So I would say definitely like Brad Mehldau. Brad Mehldau is one of those people, and recently I've been like checking out a lot of Jerry Allen, and that's blown my mind. And people like Sullivan Fortner, I'm always just amazed at the things he can do at the piano. And Ahmad Jamal, rest in peace. I'd say those are some of the big ones for me.
Amazing. Yeah, it's funny. So many people have been talking about Sullivan lately. And so I feel like I need to do just a big Sullivan deep dive.
You absolutely should.
Now, before we continue, I just want to take a second to thank Casio again for sponsoring this episode. The keyboard in front of me is actually the Casio Privia PX S6000. This is part of their new Privia line. As you can see, this is just a visually gorgeous keyboard that I've been using for many months now, and I'm absolutely loving having it as my daily practice piano. They've taken the time to really make this a beautiful instrument to both look at and actually physically use. The key bed is really nice, it's fairly quiet. I love it. Again, I've been practicing on it sometimes hours a day consistently, and it feels great on my hands. I feel like I've been making a lot of progress, and I've always just enjoyed sitting down to play it. It also may sound silly, but for me, the visual aesthetic of an instrument is actually really, really important. And some of the details of this design have also really led to me loving this instrument even more. For example, there's actual spruce on the sides of the keys. Those little touches really help it feel like a real piano. There's also wood style paneling, which helps the aesthetic. Love these stands. And of course, the actual interface is all just controlled by touch with these little lights. And it's just a really simple, minimalistic looking keyboard. Again, I've really fallen in love with this instrument. As far as digital pianos go, this is one of my favorites that I've used and one of the most comparable experiences that I've had to an actual real piano. Huge thanks again to Casio for sponsoring today's video and supporting this kind of educational content. I hope you're getting a lot out of today's episode. And if you're interested in learning more about the Privia line, check out the affiliate link in the description of this video. And if you're streaming this podcast, you can also just go to noahkellman.com/Casio and you will find the affiliate link there. All right, right back to the episode. Okay, cool. Well, I got a question for you. Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask about your experience playing with Louis Cole. So Louis is obviously such a unique musician and musical brain.
Absolutely.
And also, I don't know him very well. I've only met him a couple times. So I'm kind of curious about his personality and how it comes into music. What is it like actually working with him? What does he look for from someone playing keys on his music and his records? Have you played specifically on his records, or you played live with him too? Yeah, just tell us a little bit about that experience if you're down.
Yeah. He's incredible. Like, I feel like the word, genius, is like thrown around a lot these days and has kind of lost its value. But he's one of the few people I've been around that's truly a genius in his own person. And like you said, he's very unique style. And yeah, I feel very fortunate to have been able to work with him and also Genevieve Artadi, who's also part of Nowhere. I played on the album that they just put out. I've toured with Louis's big band project. Yeah, it was surreal for me because I was listening to their music all the way in high school. So when I got to LA and met them, and then a few years later got the opportunity to start playing with them, it was surreal for me just from that perspective. And then actually working with them, seeing their process. First of all, they're some of the nicest people. It's enjoyable just from that standpoint, because the music, I feel like that affects the music in a positive way. Like, it is complicated, and it is it can be a lot to learn, but I feel like there's also elements of silliness, lightheartedness. I feel like he's one of the people I've seen strike that balance the best, just not serious but also intentional, so that's why I love his music. I think that's why he's, who he is. And also his sense of harmony is very unique as well. And I feel like I've heard it start to permeate other people's sounds which is cool to see.
Definitely, yeah. I would imagine that he's already a really influential musician in general and composer.
Yes.
And probably producer as well.
Yep. And yeah, he's starting to do more stuff. Like he just did something with the Metropole Orchestra, and he's really been getting into arranging. Him and Genevieve, really getting into arranging for like big band and like large orchestras. So that's been cool to see their sounds in those contexts as well.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what do you feel like are some of the maybe most interesting or most important lessons you've learned just from the different people you've worked with in general? It could be Lewis and Genevieve, or you mentioned Herbie Hancock. I mean, what are some lessons that you've learned very specifically from actually interacting with these people and their music in real life as a collaborator?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like not even music, like just the importance of just being a good person and just being kind. Like Mr. Hancock is very gracious, and he talks a lot about that. You probably heard the interviews of him just saying like music isn't who we are, it's what we do. And I feel like being able to have those things or develop those things in tandem with each other, like being the best person you can be and also being the best musician you can be, I feel like just always kind of yields good results, and just never kind of giving up on always progressing in both areas. Yeah, that's what I've kind of learned from watching them, and also just the importance of following like your ideas, even if it takes a long time. I try to make my approach like as personal as I can and intentional with my perspective, and I feel like it's important to obviously like learn all the things you learn in school and study the history, but also really spending time with yourself and figuring out your perspective, I feel like creates a lane for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. That's really nicely said. And I think it's the music business is kind of a people business.
Absolutely.
Right, but then at the same time, everything is.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what business you're in, if you're nice to people and they enjoy working with you and hanging out with you, your chances of success are 10 times higher, right?
Absolutely.
At least I would imagine.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Well, on that note, since you mentioned harmony, what do you say we talk harmony a little bit? So, all right, I'll start easy, but I'm still gonna put you on the spot.
For sure. Okay.
What are 3 voicings that have stuck out in your mind? Like 3 voicings where you've sat down and been like, wow, that's a cool voicing. I'm gonna actually work on this and integrate it into my playing.
I feel like I've always kind of been fascinated with like the role of like the natural 4 in a major chord. So kind of this, like Monk will do it a lot. He's another person that's just like changed my life. But you kind of hear that a lot in like maybe folk music. Yeah. So like a A. And then even like like major 7, note 3. That sound. Jerry Allen will kind of do that a lot. Like. Yeah, so I'm always like sneakily like adding natural 4 in a major chord. Like awesome. If someone is like, if I'm reading some music and it's just major, like natural 4 is going in there.
Better be ready for it.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. So if you're, let's say, one thing I like to do, try to remember to do as much as I can, is ask, okay, now how would you actually put this in context? So if we were in a standard, for example, is it something that you might just throw in on any major chord just if it feels right, or?
Yeah, and like with everything, I feel like it's all about context. So, I mean, if there's a sharp 11, like if the melody is leaning more sharp 11, then I probably wouldn't play it. But otherwise, if it's just like more open, then I would throw it in there. When you said like within the song, I was thinking of Like Someone in Love, like. myself. It's just like, I don't know, it like adds like this grounded type of feeling. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Thank you.
There are some other gorgeous voicings in there as well. So yeah, what's your approach been to getting voicings in general? What's your approach to finding a voicing and deciding you like it? And then what do you do with it once you decide, I want to get this voicing under my fingers?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm always kind of searching. Like I was just talking to another pianist friend just about like how people like Sullivan and like Herbie Hancock they have these voicings that just don't even seem real. and so I feel like I'm always kind of just searching for like those tensions. So I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. Like are you trying to depict tension or resolution? Think of it more as like textures. It all just depends on what you're going for, but I love to just like muck up a chord. So like like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like these 10, 11 note chords, just to see what happens. And then if there's something I like, then I'll probably keep it in mind. But I guess in general, I'm not really thinking more specifically like, oh, what was that voicing that I really liked? It's more so just like, where does the melody lead me to? Where does whatever, like what does the moment kind of allow or call for? But yeah, I mean, I feel like ultimately my outlook on harmony at the moment is really just like following the melody and just seeing what could happen within there.
Interesting. Yeah. So would you say that kind of your knowledge of what notes just function in a voicing,
yes,
it allows you to, in other words, kind of improvisationally change up the shapes of your voicings?
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that. That is absolutely crucial. Like, I feel like you're not really free if like you don't have, like if you're not breaking free from something. Like you have to have a foundation and understanding of what you're breaking free from. So everything that I'm playing, I guess that's wrong, or that like I said, mucking up the chord, that's all based on what I understand the original idea to be. Otherwise it's just random, which there is a context for that, but I think it is important to have that grounding and understanding of what the right thing is, or what the thing you're jumping off of in order to really do it.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And so in this context, then maybe we can interpret it as, okay, you have a really strong understanding of what notes work in a scale, what notes work in a voicing, and therefore you don't actually have to be constrained necessarily to this one specific voicing. It doesn't always have to be that exact arrangement of notes. It can also be like, I'm going to see what it sounds like if I want a more clustered sound, or maybe now I want a more open sound.
Absolutely.
You don't have to know perfectly what's going to work. You just know, essentially, you can see the keyboard, you know which notes are going to fit.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I love that. And I'm assuming, obviously, when you add the 4, you know how the 4 is going to affect that sound on a major chord.
Absolutely.
That's really, really cool, man.
Thank you.
Let's take a little bit of a technical break.
Sure.
Let's talk key beds, man. How's it playing the Casio key bed right now? Man,
it actually feels great. I feel like I actually had like a Casio growing up. My older brother also plays keys, and cool. He like when he went off to school and stuff, he just like left it home. So I feel like, yeah, this one is even like an evolution of that one. I feel like they've always been known for like decent weighted key beds, but this feels like you know, they really like honed it in. It's like, it flows really nicely. Yeah, it doesn't feel like cheap or anything.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, really nice. I love that they added like the, you know, like the wood accents like in I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
it's a really nice touch.
Yeah,
No, I nerd out about that too.
Yeah.
I think I want to say it's spruce. Not entirely sure. Don't quote me on that, but it's really nice to have it there, right? It's like these little touches.
Yeah.
They just make the playing experience better.
It literally, yeah. So yeah, I get really like, I don't want to say depressed, but like if I, you know, especially in a place like LA where there's not a lot of pianos at venues, I feel like if you're just playing like, you know, acoustic straight ahead setting and like you're just playing this keyboard, I feel like, I don't know, sometimes it's just not as nice. So I feel like all those little things make a difference, like a good piano sound and a good feeling key bed makes all the difference.
Totally agree, man. Here's another kind of nerdy question for you. Are there any specific exercises throughout your whole piano kind of practice life that stick in your mind like, wow, I practice this exercise so consistently, or I practice this so much that you feel like had a big impact on your technical ability or your harmonic ability, anything like that?
Yeah. This is actually a good time to be asking me this because like I feel like for the longest I was not really that type of practicer, but recently I've been getting into the hand-in technique book, but specifically like the exercises in the back of the book. So I feel like they're more devoted to like hand independence. So there's I think exercise 44 is like this like going up the scale but playing triple repeated notes. So yeah, and then it has a 4-note one. It took a while for me to be able to.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah.
Woo. So this is like 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fun.
It's tricky. Yeah, and it's just like I don't know. It's all just tools. Like you never know like what context that might even come in, but like. I feel like it just opens up the possibility. So like a lot of times I'll do that on lines. Like.
It's funny, I'm just so used to doing it, it's just, you know.
That's true, some people, yeah.
But there's like a different technical strength too that I think and focus that you get from doing all 4 fingers.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I love these little weird techniques because you can use them in these different ways. So what you just did, to me, that's so important, right? Mm-hmm. I learned it in the hand exercise. How am I going to apply it to a line?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it just opens up another possibility. Like we were talking about textures earlier in playing solo piano. Like, I don't know that. Like, what if you started a tune that way and just like saw where it go? Like, just I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, it just opens up a whole nother possibility if you allow yourself to just like, I don't know, like a lot of teachers like the great Hal Crook, he talks about like setting these limits and just, or just like starting with a problem and finding your way to a solution. Like Herbie Hancock talks a lot about that too. So that's one of them, the repeated note thing. And like, it also has like this thing that focuses on like the 4th and 5th finger. It's like so stuff like that. Just I feel like just opens up your hands.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm doing it right, but
no, you're doing it perfect.
Yeah, that's like it's tough, right?
It's really tough. Like,
but that's good stuff. I will say, as someone who's had a lot of chronic pain injuries, I'll just warn anyone who's listening not to practice that for 3 hours.
No, definitely not. I get it out the way. Like I think overall it's like you just do it up the scale like a couple octaves, and I think there's one repeat, but like I would not spend and I recommend doing it slow too, like to the point where you feel comfortable. Like the point isn't speed at all, it's really about control. So I feel like once you get to the point where you feel comfortable and you feel controlled, like you're not rushing, you're not like skipping, you know, then that's more so the point.
That's such a good point. It's a really important point, that it's more about control. It's
Absolutely.
Almost like I try to remind people that we are athletes, right? And so if you're going to the gym, it's not purely just how many reps can you do, because if you're doing them wrong, not only is it not actually legitimate, but you also are very likely to hurt yourself.
Absolutely.
So same thing at the piano, right?
Yeah, I got really inspired over the pandemic because that docu-series about the Bulls came out.
I never saw it.
The Last Dance.
Oh yeah, I did see it. Never mind.
Yeah, and so I think that episode where they're talking about Michael Jordan, and like I just like went on a rabbit hole about like how he trained and everything. And so there was an interview with his trainer, and he said like if you were to go to one of his sessions, his like practice sessions, he used to just working on fundamentals, like the most basic. And it's like if you watch his game, you would think he'd be working on all these tricks. And so that just made me think about like, man, I feel like if you just build a really strong foundation, like, you know, then that opens up the possibilities of what you could do.
Wow, that's deep. But it really is. I mean, it's like, it's kind of, in other words, saying the stronger you make your foundation, the more easily you can do all the creative stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like the creativity or the ideas are in your head. So it's really just about like connecting the physical with, you know, the mental and the emotional, if you will. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's. I think one thing that I try to teach in general, especially in the courses that I make and things like that, is the idea of learning methods for learning as opposed to just completely obsessing over vocabulary.
Absolutely.
Right? So like with one lick, I like to take the lick. So let's say it's a Brad Meldau lick, because I've learned a lot of those. You know, instead of trying to learn a bunch of licks and just assuming they'll go into my vocabulary, I like to, you know, encourage people to take that one lick, but then just spend whole solos basing their solo off that one lick. See how much you can make that lick work in all different contexts, different tunes. So obsess over that one specific, you know, grouping of notes and using your ears to actually then become creative with it, as opposed to just getting stuck with like, oh, I have Brad's lick on anthropology or whatever, you know what I mean? So I think that's a really important thing. So one more question I have for you, Paul. Where can people just check you out, what you're doing? What are you working on right now?
That's a great question. I ask myself that all the time. Yeah, I don't, unfortunately, I don't have any music out at the moment.
Just for now.
Just for now, yeah. I am on some other people's records, like a great trombonist here, Kalia Vondever. She put out an album last year that I was fortunate enough to be on, and a great friend of mine, Jalen Baker, he's a vibraphonist, also from Houston. He's putting out, his record is dropping on July 7th. I'm on that. Yeah, in general, yeah, I guess Instagram and YouTube are kind of like the most recent stuff that I've done individually or that's up. So yeah, if you just type my name in those places, you can find a couple things.
Cool. And I saw you had a website, paulcornishmusic.com, right?
Yes, yeah.
Awesome.
Which I'm trying to do better about updating. So updated tour dates and bio coming soon.
Amazing. I love that. Well, how would you feel about playing something together?
I'd love to.
Yeah, it'd be really fun.
Man, this reminds me, when you said that, it just reminds me of like the late great Marion McPartland, those NPR shows that she used to do. I listened to that.
Yeah, I used to listen to it all the time.
Yeah. I'm
not going to deny at all that this is all very inspired by her.
For sure. No, it's great. It's like an extension.
Yeah, I mean, I at this point, I love hanging with other pianists, and especially like just really talented people. And, you know, I like to pick people's brains, and I feel like there are so many people out there who would love to hear what you have to say and your approach to music.
Right.
And then I get to be selfish and be like, let's play something together, man.
Yeah. No, thank you for making the platform, making it possible.
It's my pleasure, and something I hope can continue to grow for everyone. Like, hey, when you put out a record, you're welcome to come back. We'll dive into it. We'll break apart your solos.
For sure.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah. It means a lot.
Cool, man. What do you want to play?
That's the eternal question.
I have the repertoire of at least a high school jazz student. So
I don't know if I have that. So you might have me beat. But
I don't know about that. Cool. You want to start it?
Sure. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. So fun.
Yeah, likewise, for sure.
Amazing. All right. I hear Rhapsody.
Yeah. Jeez.
Woo!
It's a lot of fun.
Man, so fun. I rarely get to play duo with another pianist, honestly.
Same actually. Well, yeah, just again, thanks for having me. It's really an honor. And yeah, to everyone listening out there, just importance of just being thorough in your study, and don't be discouraged by not getting called for gigs, or being intimidated by other pianists that play fast or anything. Everyone has their own story to tell, and it's valid. So yeah, just keep going.
Man, that is so beautifully said, and I think probably so inspiring to people, man. I mean, I just felt inspired. So it's it's funny, but now I feel like I'm almost entering like, oh, I'm not the young generation anymore. You know what I mean? And it's funny because I hear guys like you and other people who just sound absolutely incredible, and sometimes I have the thought like, oh man, like, am I falling behind already, or you know what I mean? And it's like, at the end of the day, as you said perfectly, we all have our own story to tell, and when you look back in time, right, it's like so many of the greatest musicians of all time that we think of weren't necessarily the greatest pianist.
Absolutely.
Right? It's about the people who are authentic. And as you said, you work really hard on being authentic and honest with your playing and stuff. So, man, thank you for that very inspirational message.
Absolutely.
Really awesome.
Sure.
And thank you so much for being on, man. It's an honor to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Sounds so incredible. Your playing is absolutely beautiful. I cannot wait to see what's next and what your first original record sounds like.
For sure. Me too. Whenever that happens. Yeah.
Hey man, I just turned 32 and released my debut album 2 days before that. So hopefully for you it'll happen way sooner.
That's inspiring to hear, because I feel like you just kind of mentioned, I always feel I'm 26 now, so I feel like I've already like missed the window of like, when I should be like putting stuff out, but it's encouraged to hear.
Yeah, it's something I've thought about a lot, and I will tell you, a lot of people who I didn't realize, a lot of incredible musicians who I love, I realized some of them, nobody even knew their name until they were 35 or 40. You know what I mean? There's time, and I think especially in today's world, things often work a little differently. It's not always about starting young and releasing everything young. We all got time. I don't care if you're 15, 30, 60.
Yeah.
If you make something amazing and honest, we live in a world where that can suddenly permeate everything. And oops, good thing I don't need that anymore. And so I think it's a beautiful message.
No, very true. I think, shout out to my teacher from USC, Ellen Pasquale. I think he didn't put out his first record until he was in his 40s, and he's who he is. So
yeah, exactly. Amazing. I love it. Well, cool, man. Thank you so much again, Paul.
Thank you.
You sound incredible. Really appreciate you
being here.
Likewise,
seriously.
Thank you. I know everyone watching and listening is going to just enjoy this so much and learn so much. So appreciate you sharing your knowledge.
Thank you for having me.
All right, man.
All right.
Till next time.
Till next time.